Hello and welcome to the Fairy Little podcast. I'm Marsha, also known as Fairy Little on all of the social media. It's great to be back with you today. I'm feeling very mellow today. So today I have 0 finished objects, but I have a bunch of different things that I've been working on and I'm going to share those with you today. I have a couple, it's really like testnet land in my world right now. And I have test knitters working on my new hoodie pattern, which you can see right there. I'm still looking for some test knitters for my hoodie pattern for a couple of the different sizes, like the larger size busts. I'm trying to make it as inclusive as I can. It goes up to a 60-inch bust, but there's not a lot of, in my experience, I have been struggling finding people with the larger bust sizes to test knit. So it's one of those things that I'm just going to go ahead and I'll release it without having the larger sizes test knit, and then when somebody knits it, if they run into any problems, they can just contact me and I'll make corrections at that point. But I want to make sure I'm releasing it with as many sizes as possible. So I'm just struggling with that a little bit right now. I have so many. I have 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 test knits happening right now. The V-neck top I also designed. Also, again, I don't have the larger sizes being test knit right now. So if you happen to be endowed and you are looking for a free pattern to knit, I have a couple options if you're interested. But the things that are happening are right now I have the hoodie going on and I've been knitting it in one solid color this time. I don't have a name for it yet. I'm still thinking about that, but I'll have a name for it before it goes live. So I have the body done and now I'm working on the pocket area. It's very potato chippy, I'd say, which means you just, like potato chips, you just keep eating it. So you just keep knitting it. It is knit on a lightweight DK, which is the Berrocco Remix Light. So it's a light DK or a heavy fingering. Now I did knit this on a fingering. This is actually fingering weight that I knitted on, and it did come out smaller. So there definitely is a difference. The skein is a 100 gram skein and it has 432 yards, which to me says fingering, but when I looked it up, it's a lightweight, which is it's a 3. It's a lightweight DK. And it's knitting up really beautifully. I'm doing it in this, it's kind of a deep pink color and I really like it. I'm really enjoying it. It's moseying along very nicely. My test knitters are all swatching and getting ready to cast it on. This one has a 2-month time frame, so beginning of March, it should be done and ready to release. I'm really looking forward to it. It's very comfortable. It's a very, very comfortable knit. And this yarn actually has silk in it. It's a nylon, cotton, acrylic, silk, and linen blend. This yarn will actually, the more you wear it, the softer it'll get, which is really nice because hoodies are kind of something that you can wear all the time. And if you're wearing it all the time and it's just getting softer and softer, then that's just amazing. That is one of my works in progress. I knit a bunch on it last night, which was really good. And that's coming along, and I'm going to be starting to take that with me wherever I go just to get it done. I have another test knit that has been getting worked on since the autumn. With this test knit, I had the pattern tech edited and my group and got a whole bunch of test knitters ready to go on it. At the same time, people were finding that there was some issues, and so I ended up sending it to a different tech editor, and there was some really dynamic changes that needed to be made for the different sizes. I didn't realize before I set up my group, or else I would have waited. I had to get all of my testers to stop knitting, which was super frustrating for me and for them. And I worked back and forth with my tech editor, and then it was a real stop go situation. Just wait, I think I've got that figured out. Somebody finds an error. Like normally it's a little bit of back and forth anyway with a test knit, but this one was just like very extreme. I was very frustrated because of the amount of time that it should have taken and the amount of time it has taken, and it's at no fault of my test knitters, not at all. It's totally on me. I should have caught that sooner, and I was actually hoping that it would be test knit during the summer is when I was hoping it would have been test knit. And at one point I cast it on because I wanted to figure out, because I'm a visual person, I wanted to figure out what was happening in the decreases, because it has a very cool decrease in the arms and it's an extra wide band, which I love. In the meantime, I cast it on and I joined my sleeves, and then I was with my test knitters at where we needed to be, and then there was a major change. So I spent probably about an hour yesterday back knitting, and I'm almost done. I'm removing the sleeves. So here they are. I'm going to remove them. I have to shift them down a stitch, and I have to recount and find my new center. And so that's happening. But the really good thing is that I know that this pattern is going to be good when it's done. It's going to be good. And I don't want anybody to run into any of the problems that we've run into on this one along the way. It's the Contemplate sweater, and it will be coming out soon. I'm going to knit through this size before I release it because I want to make sure that it's good. I've read through the pattern. Everything there looks really good. I just really want to make sure, because the whole thing is a 1x1 rib. So if the numbers are not correct, then those decreases are not going to look like what they need to be looking like. So I want to make sure that they are. Yeah, and it just changes when you change the measurements going up, and you have to fandangle numbers a little bit. And so that's what's happening with this one. So not knitting on it, unknitting on it, and then I'll re-knit it. So maybe in the next week I'll get it done. It just, when you have one of those knits that you have like so many you're so excited about, and then it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. That kind of frustration, that's where I'm at right now, and it took me a long time to pull it out so that I could pull it out. So that's what I'm doing with this one. It will be done soon, and then I'll be releasing the pattern. So the yarn I'm using on the Contemplate is Cascade Yarns 128 Superwash Merino wool, and it's a bulky, so it knits up really quickly. And that's the one I'm using, and it's like an eggplant color. I think they're just numbered though. Yeah, color number 1965. So that is what color that one is. Currently, I have test knitters working on my fingerless mittens, and those are coming along really quickly. My test knitters are knitting super fast. It's going very well. So this one will be released very shortly. And I have lots of different sizes. I've got small to like extra large sizes, and they're super easy to adjust. One of my test knitters just finished her first one, and she adjusted the length because her fingers aren't as long. So it's super easy to adjust that way. The length of the sleeve is very long because if you're like me, you don't want cold air shooting up your sleeve or getting into, or snow getting between your glove and your jacket, because that's really uncomfortable. So I made them very long. They have a thumb gusset, but there's no increases in the thumb gusset. Like it's very simple. There's a little bit of technical stuff right here, but other than that, they're very easy. So if you're interested in learning a new pair or how to knit fingerless mittens, this is a really good option. This is a very good beginner fingerless mitt knitting adventure that has a thumb. And that's the only thing that's technical in it, is the thumb where you pick up the stitches. I think that's the most technical part. And if you do it really well, you won't even be able to tell that you've picked up stitches in there, or just barely. So yeah, and it folds down, so you still have access to your fingers and thumbs. So if you need to use your device or you just want to have your fingers free, absolutely. And then these fold down for if you are hanging out outside and you want to keep your fingers warm. So this yarn is by Riverstone Yarns, and I believe it's the Rocky Mountain colorway. And it's so smooshy. It has a cashmere, it's merino cashmere blend, and it's so nice and warm. The cashmere just warms it right up. It's so nice. So my test knitters are working on those and they should be ready soon. I just have to go let my dog in. The last thing I have been working on, and I haven't worked on this in a little while, but I wanted to share it with you because it is one of those things that I pull out when I just need to cleanse my palette. I love it. It's very cozy. Hey, thanks for the coffee. Okay. It's very cozy. What it is it's a crochet blanket. And I'm using a 4mm needle, which is a G6, L5 G6. I don't know what that means, but it's really soft for gripping. And I used to use the fully metal ones, but they were really hard on my wrists, and I actually had to stop crocheting for a while because of how hard crocheting was on my wrists. So now last year I started crocheting a whole bunch of, I was calling them stress blankets. I'm working on this one. Let's find the end. I'm working on this one. So it starts in the corner. It's very big already. It starts in the corner. So that's the corner, and you go back and forth across the corner, and every row you make it longer and longer and longer. And I have switched now to having a straight edge. So there's the straight edge. That's how far it is. So it's actually coming back in now, which is fun. So this is, yeah, that's the edge right there. And what I'm doing is last year I pulled out all of the yarn that I didn't have plans for, yarn that was gifts that I'm not using, and I put them together and am knitting them or crocheting them into blankets. So this blanket is getting all of these different beautiful yarns that I haven't used in years. pulled them all out and I put them here to go into this blanket. And I also have, so this is one of the colors I'm using right now. And this one is the Fawn and the Fox yarns in Moon Fae Kingdom, I think it is. Or, yeah, Moon Fae Kingdom. And I'm mixing each yarn with some yarn that I dyed. So I had this color, which is pink, blue, purple, and brown. And then I had this one, which is pink and blue with little bits of purple. So I've been mixing every single skein that I have added into this blanket has one of those pink, purple, or pink, purple, brown ones in it. So that's what gives it the consistency throughout the entire blanket, but it's also bringing in yarns that I wouldn't necessarily have been knitting with anyway. So this one, the yarn that it's knit with, has brown and blue and like a greeny color. And then there's another one here that's like striped with brown, like a mustardy kind of color. Then this one's just a nice speckle. So you can just see how they run through. And this is a blanket that, it's not a granny square. I don't know what it's called, but you crochet up this direction and then you crochet back this direction and then you crochet up this direction and then you crochet back this direction. So I don't know what that is called. I actually took a blanket. That's actually how I learned how to crochet. Actually, I took one of my mom's blankets and I pulled the stitches apart and looked how the loops fit into each other. And that's how I learned how to crochet. So I did that, the same thing with another blanket. And I learned how to do this stitch by pulling apart the stitches and seeing how they fit together and like how they're connected and at what points. So I'm not sure what this stitch is called. If you know what this stitch is called, then if you could just pop it below, that would be fantastic. But this is just a really great way to use scraps. It has been I haven't had it on the hook for a year yet. I do want to get it off the hook, but it hasn't taken precedent because there's been so many other things that I've been working on. I'm just going to fix this. Just going to fix this stitch here. It's mangled. There we go. Okay. So that is that. I got 3 other blankets done around the same time, but I wanted something that had more weight to it because I have a weighted blanket on my bed and the crochet blankets just add even more weight, and I really like that. It helps me sleep. I fall asleep much quicker with a weighted blanket. You may notice that I have tutorials coming out yesterday. I spent all day recording tutorials. I started editing them today. I put one up for my test knitters because they're doing a specific technique that is a new one to some of them. So I posted that and I just sent them the link to it. So it's still private because I want to release them in order for skill building reasons. So that is like at the end of the where we are, that's at the end of the skill building. So I'm going to be releasing those. I have been releasing them on Mondays, but I think I'm going to release them on Tuesday because it'll be Tutorial Tuesday. And I think that kind of sticks in your mind easier. And then it'll be kind of like Madness Monday, which Mondays will be whatever else I feel like posting if I feel like posting. I actually got a knitting machine. It's an Addy knitting machine and it's the large one, like the extra large one. So I did a unboxing video of that I haven't put up yet, but I've been working on that, and I think that that will be my next Monday video, and my tutorials are going to be starting again very soon. Today is Monday, so I should have released one today, but I think I'm going to start back up with them next week. Or no, I can actually release one tomorrow, actually. And I did mention last time that I want to knit a drawer full of socks. So I was thinking, I have the book Sock Architecture by Laura Neal, and I was thinking I would do that book and just knit through it, but I haven't decided yet if that's what I want to do, because I do want to knit some designs that are not mine, and I think that that might be a good way to do it. I have knit some of the designs in there, or some of the socks in there. I really like the Stree socks. Those are some of my favorite to knit, so I might just go through that and just make that a thing this year, is just knit a pair from that each month or something. Just thinking that out loud. Okay, so now for real, that's the end of the knitting content. So if that's all you're here for, thanks for joining me. If you enjoyed the knitting content, then take a look below. There's lots of ways that you can support the podcast. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you next time. For the rest of you, hey, I want to say a huge, huge shout out to those people who have been buying my patterns, who have been supporting the podcast, who have been making donations. Oh my goodness, I almost cried. I appreciate it so very much. Like, it actually makes a difference in my day-to-day life, and so I really appreciate it. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. One of them said, also treat my sister, so I am going to take her out and we'll go for coffee or dinner or something. It was a very nice donation, so thank you very much. I don't want to say anybody's name in case you don't want your name said, so I want to respect that. Okay, and for other things that are happening. So it's been a big week in the world. I don't know what to say about that. I have a lot of things I want to say, but I don't feel like that this is the place for that. But I also feel like this is exactly the place for that. My dog is sitting on the floor over here, and his nose is between two different balls of yarn because they fell out of my tickle trunk. So it just looks really comfortable, but it's kind of it needs to be tidied up in here for sure. It gets out of hand fairly quickly. I've increased my self-care over the last week. So what I've been doing is I have been having Epsom salts baths, because Epsom salts has magnesium in it. And I've been meditating more, which I definitely need to do, and and it's making a difference for me as well. I've also been very buried in my work, which is good. I'm going through all of my old patterns and reformatting them, getting schematics for them, and sending them to the person who is doing my webpage. So all of those things are getting to one step closer to my goal. And I know that everything's not going to be as crazy as it is right now. I've been working from this morning. I woke up at 6:30 and I was working till 9 o'clock last night. And then I woke up at 6:30 and I was working right away. So I work it's not necessarily straight through. Like yesterday, I took a break to play basketball with the girls, and which was really fun and very necessary. I've been going for also more walks, which is really good. The physical activity part for me is a little bit more difficult because I could be using that time to knit. So it's, so I have been, I have an elliptical. So I've been doing that for 20 minutes a day, or trying to do it for 20 minutes a day. And if I'm not doing that, I'm getting outside. And I got this app, and it's a fasting app. And so I've been fasting, and it hasn't really changed anything for me. I'm not a huge breakfast eater anyway. So, but what it did do is, because I eat dinner early, and what I was doing is I was eating snack foods like right before I went to bed. So this fasting app, using that, just removes that snack window. And so I'm not snacking. I'm just missing that and going around to the morning when I would normally have breakfast and have lunch and then have dinner. So I'm trying to have a healthier lifestyle, because it was so easy to just not. But it also makes sure that I'm eating, because there's like two things. I eat junk, I eat what's easy, or I just forget to eat altogether, and I don't get the feeling of being hungry until it's like too late. So it's just a kind of reminder, this is the window, and I'm making healthier choices when it is time for me to eat. So I'm just trying to get all of those, like the little pieces, online so that I can make the big pieces stay on track. Last week I mentioned that my dad's care home has a COVID outbreak, and I just want to keep you all updated on what is happening. He was moved to the hospital. He had come in direct contact with somebody who had COVID, and he was exhibiting some symptoms, but they don't know if the symptoms were because they had to take his CPAP machine away. So he wasn't breathing properly at nighttime, and he couldn't sleep well. So they moved him to the hospital because they have a different kind of CPAP machine, which is like the nighttime breathing machine. The ones that they had in the seniors complex that my dad lives in, it becomes a super spreader of COVID when they're run. So they moved my dad to the hospital, and he went straight into isolation. They did, and they got him set up with a CPAP there. They did a COVID test, and the first test came back negative, and then they did a second test, and that test came back negative. So now the doctor is going to decide if he's getting the vaccine right away, or if they're going to wait another week and give him the vaccine, or if they're going to wait the 14 days from exposure, give him the vaccine then after a third clear COVID test. He is still in isolation. We do get to speak to him on the phone. We're not allowed to go visit him. Nobody's allowed to go see him. They have to be fully kitted out to enter his room. And I think they only go in there to bring him his meals and to check his vitals. So it's pretty limited contact. He's got a very good attitude about it, though. He believes that he's going to live forever, so he won't contract COVID. And that he's just going to be fine. So he's very positive. So that's going better. We were pretty worried for a couple days, and it was pretty nerve-wracking waiting to hear back on that. Often when I podcast, I don't write anything down of what I'm going to talk about, or projects or things. And I think that it might be necessary for me to start doing that. Because I just get very off topic. I've been catching up on some podcasts. I've been watching the Bakery Bears. They are one of my favolas. I also support them through Patreon as well. And I've been watching Distant Stitches, who they were two tangled skeins in the very beginning, and they were one of the very first knitting podcasts I ever found. I think they were the first knitting podcast I ever found. And it was watching that podcast that got me interested in knitting lace. So that started my lace journey. That podcast inspired a lot of things. And I was also watching A Homespun House. And a homespun house also is one of the first ones that I found. So I think that those three, the fat squirrel, I also watch. Those are kind of like, I watch a lot of other podcasts, but those are like my core. When they come up, I watch them within a week. I'm not a consistent watcher anymore, but those ones I consistently enjoy. It's nice to get back into watching podcasts. They are so inspiring. I also get something different out of each one, which I find really enjoyable. I do watch other podcasts too. I'll talk about those in future episodes, but those are the ones that I've been like really tuning in for right now, because they are just, they're my core. And I know everybody has their core ones that they really, really enjoy. It's awesome because as a podcaster, like I fall into that category for some people as well. And I appreciate all of you watching and who I am that for you, because it's really cool. And we're actually creating relationships and friendships through this, which is really, really awesome. You know, I've got some really good friends that I met through podcasting and through Instagram and knitting that I would not have met otherwise. And it's really cool how we are connecting from around the world to watch people that you started with excel. There's a couple people that I was like within the first handful of their subscribers, and they're doing really well, and I'm super excited for them. I just want to be a cheerleader for them. Just like show up in their comment thread. You're doing amazing. I love it. Okay, so I think that's it for me for today. I don't know how much of that's going to make it in, because I just jibber jabbered a lot about a lot of nothing. So I hope you have an amazing day and an amazing week. I hope this coming week is a lot better than last week was for everybody. I'm gonna get back to work and get some editing done. Editing on patterns and on videos. I hope you have an amazing day, an amazing week, and an amazing knitting adventure. And I also want to inspire you. If you're having a bit of a rough time right now, cast something new on. Just cast anything. It's just something pretty that you love. I'll see you soon. Until next time.